Hello everyone and welcome to another Mondays with Michele video. This week we're starting a new series called Technology Tips. Our topic, photo tags, what they are and how you can use them to organize and locate specific images on your computer. Let's get started. Now, although today's video is focused on Windows PC, the same kinds of capabilities exist for those of you who work on a Mac. And I would suggest just Googling adding tags to photos on a Mac to see the step-by-step instructions. Mac users have an advantage in that you can also color code the files. So that gives you another option for different ways to group and categorize your photos. So first, I wanted to go through some basics of your File Explorer screen, which is where we are when you go into that list of your folders and files. So if you look at these tabs at the top of the screen, right now we're in the Home tab, but if I click on the View tab, we've got some options. I've selected large icons. A lot of times I will work in Details mode. And in Details mode, you are seeing the file name, the date, the file type, and the size. And there's a few things you can do. Some of you may not know this. Just by clicking on the heading for that column, you can sort by that. So if I click on name, I can sort alphabetically, or I could sort by date. Sometimes it can be handy to sort by type, especially if you've got files of all different types, or even by size. The other thing you can do, I find quite often, I will have names of files that are quite long. So for instance, here, we are not seeing the full name of the file because the column is too narrow. By just hovering between the first two columns, you will see that your cursor goes to kind of a double-headed left-right arrow. If I hold my mouse button down and drag, I can expand the size of that column so that I can more easily read the name of the file. And you can do the same thing with each one of these columns. You can resize them by just dragging in that heading area, dragging on the border between the two columns. So if we want to now try and identify our photos to add information to them, it's probably easier to go to large icons so that we're getting the actual pictures. So let's say I want to put some information on this picture about my mom. And there's a couple ways to do it. I can right-click on the picture and look at this Properties command. And this little window pops up, and there is a tab at the top here that says Details. And if I click on Details, this is showing all the different fields where I can actually enter information about this picture. And we will be focusing on this first section that says description. So we have a title field, we have a subject field, we have tags, and we have comments. But I'm just going to point out, if I scroll down, there is also information about the author, the date the photo was taken, the date it was acquired, copyright information. You've got information about the image, and some of these fields, you notice, if I click on some of these other attributes, it's not letting me edit the information because some of this information is automatically created when the file is created. You can't change it, but other details you can add. So if I wanted to, if I was a photographer, it might be important for me to note which camera I used to take that picture. I'm just pointing out there's a lot of other fields of information that are available. And you can store all these details with the file. Something else to point out, each type of file has different property fields that you can type information in. So photographs, for instance, TIFF files, JPEGs, have a lot of different fields. Other file types, like Word documents, they will have some of these fields, not all of them. So it is very dependent on the type of file as to which pieces of information you are able to type in. So what I could do is I could click on title. I could add a title in. I could say Mom's High School Picture Grade 8. I could choose to use the subject column if I wanted to use that to list the people in the picture. So I could say Rita Peltier, that was my mom's maiden name. And tag, maybe I'm just going to use a tag of school. And click OK. Now, another way I can add the information, if you look at the top left of my screen, there's this item that says Details pane. That's the information panel that's showing on the right-hand side of the screen. If I turn that off by clicking, you'll see I've just got my photos. If I turn Details page on, whichever picture I've clicked on, it is showing some of those properties that you can edit. So I can also add tags by clicking in the panel on the right. And I find that's a lot easier than doing all this right-clicking, select properties, select view tabs. So for example, if I now go to this other picture, another school picture for my mom, I can go right over to this panel and type in the school tag. And I can click on title and go Mom's School Picture Grade 9. And for subject, I'll go Rita Peltier and click Save or press Enter. And then I can do the same thing. I can go school for this next picture, and I'm going to put title, Mom's School Photo Grade 10, and subject, Rita Peltier, and click Save. So I've now got tags and a title and subject information typed in for these 3 pictures. But let's say you have a whole bunch of pictures. So I've just taken a whole bunch of pictures for Christmas 1960. And I really don't want to go through and do them all one by one. I just want to put a Christmas 1960 tag on all of the pictures. So the easy way is I would just select all the pictures. So in this case, let's say I wanted to add a location tag or a school name tag to these photos of my mom, her school photos. I select the first picture. I hold the Control key down and click on the second picture. So now both of them are selected. I keep holding the Control key down and select the third picture. So at this point, I've got all 3 of my mother's pictures, her school photos, selected. What shows up on the right is still that detail panel. Now I want to add in another tag with the name of the school. So the minute I click in that tag field, it shows me the add a tag, says, okay, what's your next tag? I'll type in St. Joseph's. And then I go, okay, I think I also want to add in a tag for the city. So this was all in Winnipeg. And if I click save, it has added those 2 tags to all of the pictures that I highlighted. So if I now look at the pictures individually, do you see this picture has St. Joseph's, Winnipeg, and then it has my original school tag. This one has school, St. Joseph's, Winnipeg. This one has school, St. Joseph's, Winnipeg. So all of the pictures now have those tags. I only had to type it in once. So that is a real time saving. But if I now go back to detail list, because this is the view I'm normally working in, it's kind of awkward that in order to see the title and the tags, I'd have to go to each of these pictures and look at the pane on the right. What would be easier is if I could have columns showing the tags, the title, the subject. And the good news is you can. If I go to this View tab and go to this Add Column command, this is showing all of the items that I can add to this details view. So I want to see tags. There they are. But I also want to see that subject and title, and you notice they're not listed here. These are just the most common items, but there's this Choose Columns command. And you can see there are all kinds of things that I can add to my view. So I'm going to scroll down. It's all alphabetical. I'm going to scroll down and select subject. And I'm also going to select title because that was the other field that I filled in. And I'm going to click OK. And look at that. Now I can very quickly see which photos I've already assigned title information to, and tags and subjects. And if I just make these a bit wider, let's make the title a little bit wider, I can now see this information. And here's the advantage. The minute I can see these columns, I can actually filter my list. So by filtering, I mean that I can restrict it to just the information I want. So you notice I've got a tag here. When I was just playing around with tags, I was putting everything, including the names of the people, into just the tag field. So I could choose to restrict to just the pictures that have my Aunt Irene Pelche. I have one picture. I could choose to say Irene Pelche and everything that's been tagged with Winnipeg. Or I could say, no, I just want Winnipeg, and it updates that list. So one of the reasons why I like the idea of splitting the information between the subject fields and the tag fields is, for one thing, you'll end up with a smaller list under tags. So instead of having all of your names and your locations and the occasions all in one great big long tag list, I like the idea of separating it out so that I can say, look at the list of subject. If I'm choosing to use that for people, I can just put my people information in there, and it means I can sort my list by that. So I could say, for example, I want to sort by the title field. So if I click on this, it's putting everything in order alphabetically. And if I had multiple pictures with different subjects, I could sort the list and put it in order by subject. So I'm thinking that might come in handy. Now, let's just remove the filtering. So I'll deselect so that I'm back to my list of everything. You can search by tags. So if I search for Rita Pelche and I press enter, I've got all of this information. But you notice my columns with the tags aren't showing up, because when I added that information, it only applied to that folder I was looking at that moment in time. We didn't make the changes permanent, and I'll show you how to do that. So if I go back in to where my folder was, okay, this folder has tags, subject, title. To make the tag, subject, and title columns appear everywhere, there's a second step I have to do. I go to the View tab up top. I click on Options at the far right and do Change Folder and Search Options. And I get this little window. And if I click on this View tab, I get this message, Apply to Folders. And it says you can apply this view to all folders of this type. And that's what I want. I want every folder in this File Explorer to have those same columns. So I'm going to click Apply to Folders, and I say, yes, I want them all to match this folder's view setting. And then I click OK. And watch what happens now When I go up one folder, if I go up, let's just go to one of my other folders and go in, it's got tags, subject, and title, just like the folder that had my mom's school picture, because I'm actually in a different folder right now. You notice as I scroll down, nothing in this folder has been tagged. I was in the Rita Renton photo album folder. This is the one that has the tags. So one of the things you'll find, the reason why I like to use the tagging and not just relying on file names and folder names for searching, is because when you type something into the search field, you are searching the file names, the folder names, and all of the property information that you have filled out. So if I type in Rita Pelche and I've got some of these files or folders named Rita Pelche, they're all going to show up as well. So that's why I like to show these tags and subject and title columns so that I can actually use those columns to filter information, because I can go in and say, what do I want to filter? I want to show the St. Joseph's picture, because if I just type in St. Joseph's, I'm going to show these three pictures, but I'm also going to show everything else that had the word St. Joseph's in the title or St. Joseph's in the folder name. And that may not be what I want. So by showing these columns, I have the ability to restrict things in a different way. The other thing that's nice, once you have used the tags, the subject, the title to type in your information, if the file gets copied out and pasted, so for instance, if I copy this file and I'll just paste it back in and I'll just give it a test name, test photo. You notice the tags all came with it. So you only have to do that tagging once. And if you move that file somewhere, if you send the file to someone, if you make a copy of it and paste it in, that information is traveling with the file. The other thing, I quite often will scan files in TIFF format, but I'll save it to use in projects as a JPEG. So what I will do is go to my free Photoscape X program, which is a Windows program. And I've brought up this picture of my mom, her high school photo, one of the pictures we looked at. And I'm going to save this photo out in a different format. I'm going to save it out as a JPEG file and save it. If I go to my File Explorer and I'm going to look at all of the files, refresh. But as you can see here, I just now took this file and saved it in a different format as a JPEG, and it has kept the same tagging information. So that's a huge advantage, that you can take those files, tag them, and even if you have to save them out in a different format, the tags will go with it. The only thing you have to watch is different file types have different capabilities or categories of tags that are allowed. So for instance, TIFFs and JPEGs, they both allow you to add in title and subject and tag fields. PNG files do not. So if I was to save this as a PNG file, which is a different type of a graphic file, the tag, subject, title information would disappear because a PNG file doesn't have those fields. It just does not hold that information with the file. So we've talked about how to add information about a photograph. We have put various tags into the tags field. We have put subject information in and title information in for a number of photos. Now, you can use these fields in many different ways. For example, I chose to put my mother's name in the subject field. What you need to remember, though, is the tag field is the only one where you can actually enter multiple keywords and filter on those words individually. So if you take a look at my screen, I went ahead and added my mother's name as a tag to each of those photos that were her school pictures. So if I now click on tags, I could choose to limit my list to just the photos that are tagged with my mother's name. And as you can see, her name appears at the end of this string of tags, and each tag is separated by a semicolon. If I don't put names as tags and just choose to put them in the subject field, I am limited to being able to sort by that information. So that's really the difference. It comes down to whether you prefer to filter your list and see a smaller number of photos that exactly match a particular tag, or whether it's enough to be able to sort by a particular subject. So in this case, if I had put as the subject my mother's name, then this list will sort alphabetically, and I could scan through and see by the subject all the photos that have my mother in it. Where it gets challenging is if I've got a subject that lists multiple people, that entry will sort alphabetically, but I have no way to restrict to just the photos that have, for instance, my Uncle John, or just the photos that have my mom. Because when I click on this subject drop down, all it's giving me is a section of the alphabet. In other words, it's just doing an alphabetical sort. I could, however, add each of those names as a tag in the tag field. And now if I want to see just photos where my Uncle John appears, he is in this particular photo. So it really depends on how you want to use the field. So you should give that some thought before you spend a lot of time creating your tags and your property information for the files. I hope you enjoyed learning about photo tags. In case you were wondering, there's no handout this week. I know you are all anxious to start adding tags to your photos, so I'll let you get to it. Have fun, and thanks for watching.